Oh, there you go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to September's board meeting for 2020. And we will wait 1 second for Lance just to make sure we're all good.
It says you're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you.
All right, wonderful. Let's rise for the pledge of allegiance.
And we'll say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. We have another month. We have Trustee Walsh, who is joining us virtually tonight. And we will go ahead to the public comment portion. We received a letter this afternoon. I will read it into the meeting minutes. It says, Mayor Vogel and Village Board, after many months of effort on everyone's part, we have a way forward. At the last board meeting, it was stated that to replace 5 LED lights with HPS lights would cost $223.42. The community of Cambridge has a long history of helping one another, one person at a time in their hour of need, with an email of encouragement, a phone call of concern, flowers, or a rent party. The 45+ people on our mailing list have come up with a way forward. We will pay for the replacement of LED lights with HPS lights, so there would be no cost to the village. This would be an uncomplicated way of supporting the quality of life here in Cambridge. Adopt a light. Enclosed, please find checks made out to the Village of Cambridge for LED light replacement. We anticipate more checks will be forthcoming. So that was received from Richard, which we'll get to the portion in regards to LEDs when we get to cars parked to discuss where we're at and what has transpired since the last meeting when we all were together and had that discussion. So you'll see in there the approval for the last meeting minutes would have been August 5th board meeting. Lance set those out.
The all changes I received already been incorporated into what you have in there.
Do you need a motion?
We will need a motion, and since we have an online participant here, we will have to do roll call by. So yes, we will need a motion.
I'm happy to make the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Second from Steve. Okay, so roll call by name excluding Trustee Robertson. So Trustee Howard?
Aye.
Trustee Snyder?
Aye.
Trustee Walsh?
Aye.
And the Mayor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
All right, and just speaking about the meeting minutes, once we approve meeting minutes, those are all viewable on our village website. So you can actually go to our website and pull up meeting minutes all the way back for, I think, what, we got 18 to 17 on there?
At least, I know there's been challenges in converting PDFs.
Yeah, so if there's a resident who's watching and you had a topic that you thought maybe we had talked about in the past, those meeting minutes are there that you can go back and pull those and be able to see those. Les has the treasurer's report for us. So you will see that in your packet. And Les didn't give me any notes of interest on that or leave me any info as far as some clarification on anything. Questions in regards to the bills for this month? So The motion would read to approve the, should it say
It should be-
July or
it should-
August?
It should be August.
We already have a clarification for your meeting minutes.
There we go. Got a second on
Approve,
that.
approve the August 2020 statement of unpaid vouchers totaling $87,824.24 and the paid vouchers totaling $3,357.92 pending the audit of the individual vouchers.
I'm sorry,
No, not at all.
was just looking through the bills right now. It looks like the big one for the month was $72,000 for Peckham Industries.
Right, in December, that will actually, a portion of that
That's
will
the
be
payment.
refunded through the CHIPS money.
That was my follow-up question.
I'm on.
Thanks, Lance.
That was the paving that was for this summer.
Okay, I was wondering the same thing, Steve.
Excellent.
Good question.
And is the last year closed out now, or I know that was
Well,
delayed a bit?
well, on this form, it would just be our monthly bills. You wouldn't see anything from last year on this one. Where you see that overlay would be on the operating statements that are included.
Okay.
To like, for instance, our general. I'm trying to get to that right one to see. He may have changed it because he is prepping for our annual update document, so he may have already gotten to the point where he's set those numbers to the
Okay.
2020, 2021.
Yeah, that's why you see a budget adjustment in there, is because that's kind of like one of his last items to close out before the AUD gets put in for the 1920 fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So this must have been one of the first months in a while that we got justice fines and fees collected. Just looking at the $1,500 on the general fund page. Yeah, with the court being open.
Justice fees, those are the,
We've been getting them all along, but they're starting to pick up significantly now. The courts-
Right.
Yeah.
I think last
the open now.
month we had some, but not to this amount.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Justice Lucy, he's a machine in there. He's also cleaning up a heck of a lot of backlogs.
Yeah,
so.
sure, I bet.
Yeah, it's a little higher than normal. So do we have a motion to approve the unpaid vouchers?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we got a motion from Amy.
She's so quiet.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
Go, no, it's all yours.
Yes. Okay, so roll call vote. Trustee Halleck.
Aye.
Trustee Snyder.
Aye.
Trustee Walsh.
Aye.
Winston.
Aye.
All right.
And then as Lance was saying, the budget adjustments, so if you go to that page, you'll see it's actually evens out. So the areas that are being increased, either most of it is because, like, for instance, the police constable line, that's typically some of the money that comes from Greenwich. We don't budget for that money that comes into them for other items beyond our payroll. So there's 8,600 from that. A few other items, and then decreasing the other sections that he has here. Basically, so it's balancing out the books because each line has to be equal. I wish he was here to go a little more in depth
Right,
with that. And I know when we do our AUD, you'll typically see why he points out why, this is what we did here and there.
I mean, the bottom line is, Steve, if you're aligned in the budget and Alex is aligned in the budget, we can't close out the year with you down 20 and you
I know,
up 20.
20, yeah.
We need to actually do an adjustment to get everything even. It's housekeeping.
Gotcha. But,
Or like, for instance, Social Security, I see he's got that up $865. So what is up from? It's up from our actual budget document that we set forth. So apparently when we did Social Security for last year's given year, that area was $865 short. So he has to be able to bring it to zero because you can't leave items
In deficit.
in deficits. So that's the area
gotcha.
that he's got.
But so for like.
And we did spend like buildings and grounds, he's using that, he's decreasing that by 3,900 to help make up. Because we're under budget in our overall budget,
Sure.
it's just some of the line items are not where they need to be at.
Gotcha. So like the $4,814 that we're decreasing the fire department equipment budget line by, could that have been potentially like moved over to the reserve fund for use at a later time, or?
I think that's could be where the fire department maybe spent more in another area.
Okay,
So another line, you know, for hose, for instance, they spent $4,800 more in hose.
sure.
They're not over their overall budget as a department, but they are in that one area, so they underspent in the department's equipment. So he's just taking that number and converting it from the one to the other.
Okay.
And then our overall, so when we do our AUD, we'll see what we had left for fund balance, which means that's what we saved over the whole course of the year in every department. This is what we were left with, what we started fund balance last year, and then what we built upon that. Fund balance money we can most definitely designate to go into the reserves if we so chose to do that.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll make the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Steve for the AUD.
I'll second it.
Okay, so SR, yes. Okay, so is that you or me? Okay, roll call vote then. Steve Alex.
Aye.
Alex Derry Snyder.
Aye.
Amy Walsh.
Aye.
And the mayor.
Aye.
Motion passes for budget adjustment.
And then Leslie's got the balance sheets aren't corrected yet, because if you go to the general funds revenues, we're still sitting at 2,021,000, which we know we haven't generated that much revenue since June. So that'll be changed when he takes that last year and adjusts for this year. All right, I think we're all good with what Les needed.
Okay, mayor's report.
All right, so I'll start with, in August, beginning of August, many of you had been notified by New York American Water in regards to a boil water advisory. When they were working on Main Street, the intersection of Main and St. Luke's, they did have a main break, and so therefore they had to fix that main, but also put members of our public on the boil water advisory, which according to law, all of those that they do have to actually get a handwritten notice delivered to their door, specifically from the Department of Health. They provide it to American Water. So those that were affected received those papers, but for some reason, American Water's automated system notified a larger area of the village, and I know most of us had been questioned about that or trying to help people figure that out. So the notification went out to a much broader part of the village and notified a large number of people that were not in the boil water advisory, which created confusion because people weren't sure if they should drink their water, if they shouldn't drink their water. So when I found out, I immediately reached out to our contact American Water, put them on notice that this is what's happened. Could you please provide some clarification? And so they began doing that. They sent their apologies to us. They understood the position that it put us local officials in because American Water reps aren't here. When something happens, people reach out to us to get clarification. And I explained to them that it's very hard for me to clarify when residents are calling when I don't even know what's going on. And so we've had some discussions. I made it very clear that if they're going to do a boil water advisory, to please let me know immediately so that way I can anticipate that. As well as if it's possible for them to figure out a way to maybe not use their automated notification system when it's such a small area. I believe it was only 34 houses that actually were impacted. But the notice went out to probably close to 100 or so people by email or by a robocall. So if there was a way that they could figure out of notifying everybody safely, but not notifying and causing confusion among others who were not part of this. So they sent their apologies along. They are sincerely sorry And this is not something that standardly happens for them. I don't think I remember a time that this had ever happened in the 5 years that I've been on. You know, they weren't anticipating to do the boil water or shut off notices with the break. The pipe they were tying into was one of our 100-year-old pipes, and once they opened the ground and started putting the water, it just didn't uphold. So they actually had to replace more than they anticipated, which is great for us because we have some more updated infrastructure. So they do send their apologies along. And as always, you know, residents, you yourselves can reach right out to American Water and let them know your thoughts on how that went down, and maybe give them some feedback that you wish to see them correct that model so that doesn't happen again. And typically, you know, they're used to dealing with larger cities where it doesn't travel as fast. And here in the village, you know, one person got the notice and posted it on Facebook, which led to the questions, and then the robocalls started going. So it spread quite fast through the village that this was happening. So we are hoping that they will be able to clarify that error, and moving forward, this will not happen to people again. Also, we are going to be looking for a full-time DPW to work with our superintendent, Matt Tolman. Our longstanding full-timer, Logan Gibbons, had given us his resignation. And I wished him all the best. Logan, we thank you for the last, 4 years that you've given to this community. We appreciate that, and we wish you much success with your future endeavors. So Lance will be posting that job opening, and then we will go forward with interviews and the hiring process from there. Also a reminder, the village elections are the 15th of September. So please put that on your calendar. That's also an important vote for this community because of the firehouse referendum that's on there as well. And there's been a number of individuals who have been working toward this project for the last 5 years that I've been a part of. But prior to that, the last 15, I know the fire department had been taking strides and steps towards doing that. So a lot of work has went in to be able to put a good proposal out to the community. And our building will be turning 70 years old next year, which we, have actually outgrown it probably for the last 20. And that happens because of the size of the equipment, and the regulations for the equipment changes as the regulations are passed. And so this new building would definitely fit the requirements of what we need moving into the 21st century for this department. So please go out to the polls and let your vote count. Also on the 18th of September, it's gonna be a busy week for the village. 18th of September, we are holding our Purple Heart Village Ceremony dedication. So last month at our board meeting, the board passed the resolution to become a Purple Heart Village. So we're actually gonna hold that ceremony at Memorial Park at 4 p.m. on the 18th. And you're invited to come. It's outdoors, so that way we can all stay spaced properly apart. And just a way to recognize and honor our Purple Heart villagers who gave to this community. And the signs are already in. The Legion member, Greg Woodcock, who was responsible for ordering them, has already gotten them in. And so they will be for viewing at the ceremony before they are put up on the village.
Carmen, can I just make one clarification on the absentee ballots?
Sure.
Can you go over those? If you filed an absentee ballot on the village election, those ballots are still good. Is that correct?
Correct. And I believe Lance has it in his report to go over a little bit about the absentees and clarification. But yes, if you had already submitted an absentee back prior to the March election, that is still good. That will still be used.
Okay.
And for those that would like to get an absentee now, that is available as well. So you can decide now that you would like an absentee and get those again. So that time frame has been opened back up. Does that answer your question, Amy?
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Also, I got an email 2 weeks ago from our EPA rep in regards to the assessment that they're going to be doing on the solar landfill. The assessment, of course, was supposed to happen last summer and got kicked down the road. And then they actually were scheduled to come out here in March. I was just waiting for them to text me that they were in the village in the middle of March. And of course, that got canceled with everything with COVID, but I received confirmation that they have been cleared to start doing field assessments again. So they're gonna be coming out here to do that, which will be really great to be able to kind of move that forward a little more for community solar. The state has, set the precedent of wanting to have, 30% on renewable energy before the year 2030?
Yeah.
I think
2025 or something.
Something like
It's
that,
pretty soon.
so
Yeah,
this would be a
for sure.
great way to play a part of that. And that is all I have, unless there's any questions of me in regards to that.
I was gonna bring up the solar farm just because of Jackson being in.
Yeah, Jackson, there's a resident in Jackson who is pursuing that as well, which is great.
For sure.
Yeah, I will now turn it over to the trustee, Jerry Snyder. She's gonna give us some updates on the EPA recreational economy workshops.
Right, so people remember that we announced, I think it was last fall, that we were one of 10 municipalities in the country to get an EPA recreational economy for rural communities planning grants. So this is a process, we'll have technical support and we'll come out of it with an actionable plan that will help us sort of leverage recreational opportunities, improve quality of life for residents and attract new people, attract visitors, support our businesses. So after 3 different plans due to COVID, we finally, I think, have a winner, and that's gonna, instead of a 2-day workshop, it's gonna take place over September 21st through the 29th, sort of 1 or 2 events per day. So the schedule and the registration is on the village website. So people should check that out. If you can only make it to 1 or 2, you should attend the first or the last. And people can email me with more questions, but we really wanna help get the word out. And we're gonna be doing some other surveying ahead of time to try to use that time when we're online as efficiently as we can. So we're having to think creatively with all this, but they've been really great and I'm really excited about it.
Wonderful, thank you so much, it's very exciting.
Did Amy have
The
a question?
communication on this is very good. I've gotten email, I've gotten a few different ways I've gotten some information on it, and it's very good. It's very exciting.
Yeah, it seems like they're real pros and we've got a great steering committee and thinking too about all the different assets we have and how we use it. It seems like I'm very excited about what it can do for the village.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yes, visit the village page. There's a link to register if you want to register for those workshops. It's already up there. And it follows step by step. I think there's 5 questions you answer when you sign up for it. Pretty straightforward. All right, we will get to reports. Chief Gray is not with us tonight. Did he submit a report? No report. I know before I left the house, about an hour before, I heard the fire trucks go out. So I know they're out there. He didn't send anything. Pretty straightforward month for August. I know they're all just waiting for the results of the vote, like we are. And Superintendent Matt could not join us tonight, but he did put a report. And basically just a rundown, keeping the trash cans, grass, they blacktopping. They got the skate park was cleared to open, so that is open for public use. The playground is still not because the whole disinfecting process of that is going to be way more than we want to get involved with for that. But because the skate park, you're typically on a skateboard or bike and you're not touching surfaces and it's concrete, that could be cleared to open. They did some topsoiling. Pretty much just delivering the normal summer services to get ready for winter. They had the sand brought in. They're getting the leaf machine ready and rolling for next month for when that stops. He does have an issue for discussion at the bottom here. He says, "We are finding several blue medical masks on the ground around town. And if we could just be mindful to keep our trash where our trash belongs." I've noticed it a few times too. It's like the masks are becoming our plastic bags. So let's just be mindful. You don't see many of those. Let's just be mindful and try to, pick up our masks. I know sometimes, if you open your car door, sometimes they blow out and there's nothing you can do to go grab it if it goes across the street, but let's just be mindful to help keep our village clean. And then he also noted that village residents are not mowing in between the road and the sidewalk area. So many of us will have our yard, our front yard, and then the sidewalk, and then the little strip of grass, and then the road. While we don't own that little strip of grass, it is all considered public use, public access, that strip of grass. We are responsible to mow that little strip of grass in front of our homes. So I just want to bring that up to the residents. If you could just please mow the little strip of grass that's in front of your house to help keep the village looking beautiful as well.
Always.
And that is all for DPW. And Sergeant Danko, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. For August, we had 17 cases that were reported to the Department of Criminal Justice for a total of 128 for the year. 7 arrests for a total of 64. 55 calls of service for a total of 394 for the year. We had 0 motor vehicle accidents reported, which is good. We're still at 12 for the year. 20 tickets were issued for August for a total of 191 for the year. The breakdown of arrests is right there for you to view.
Our report says discon
Yep.
X1.
Yep, disorderly conduct.
Okay. Yeah, we're not in all the PD language for all of those little
My
acronyms for
apologies.
stuff. No, that's okay.
And these are, I really appreciate you including this in the reports now, thank you. And I realized later, these are arrest types, not call types, so how are we arresting people for mental health? Like can you explain or give examples of what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. So what happens is, I guess there's a couple different ways, but I'll do the most generic one that we kind of handle the most is called a 941 pickup order. So what happens is a person will exhibit some behavioral changes that could be dangerous to them or other people. So their primary care doctor will issue what they call a 941 pickup order, which is kind of like an arrest warrant for the mentally ill. So what is then sent to us, and we are required by public health law to take said person to be evaluated. And that is pretty much us going up to Glens Falls Hospital. It's listed on our arrests because we have to take them into custody, and they are within our custody while they are being transported to the hospital.
Okay, so these aren't people that are like gonna have a record because of it?
Correct.
And so, okay, that's.
But I still have to mark it as an arrest.
Okay. But it's surprising, I think last month it was the highest group, and this time it's higher than everything else put together.
It's like that everywhere. It's just what is going on right now.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? That seems like.
I think the last time we had a conversation, I was 100% all for having a social worker come out and take these calls. It's very stressful. It's not something we look forward to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's because of what's going on now in society.
Well, we've had people's lives disrupted for the last 7 months, and I think it's catching up to a lot of people, even though we have achieved some sense of normalcy, like most of us can go back to work or other things. But everybody's been at this high level of stress for several months. And unfortunately, there are many people that it is deeply impacting and catching up to. And unfortunately, the way the process is that the officers are the ones that the doctors send these orders out to have them picked up. So I think, I would love to see from the medical professional world how they think they could address this. Is there another way instead of the doctor sending out this order, sending it to police officers? Is there another way in our system that it could be sent to the social workers or healthcare professional units as opposed to our officers being the one responsible?
Right.
I mean, they don't mind doing it because obviously
Yeah.
it's part of their job, but yet at the same token, and it does, like, when you see this times 4, it's like, wow, these are our fellow community members, these are villagers.
I wonder, I'd be
That this is
interested in
impacting.
talking to a therapist or a social worker to hear, like, that seems like this is a really extreme case if the doctor needs you to come in
Yeah.
and physically
Yeah.
control somebody to get them to the doctor. If they had better access to healthcare and they didn't get to, like, that sounds like a crisis
Well, it's
situation
not also
to me.
just access to healthcare, it's also on the individual person as well. A high majority of these are actually people refusing to take their medication because they don't like the way it makes them feel. And then they don't understand that when they don't take their medication, they're actually in a whole different, spectrum of,
Yeah.
state of mind. And that's a lot of our
That's
cases.
interesting.
And so it comes down to just the person themselves wanting to, in general. But, it's on many different layers.
Yeah, well, it's also a good reminder for us to, maybe check in on our fellow villagers that we know, maybe send a nice card or, just something, hey, letting people know we're here. Are you going through something? Maybe you need to talk, maybe it's something as simple as you see someone at Stewart's that looks like they're struggling and you buy them a coffee. I know many times, people do just small little acts that let them know, hey, maybe you could come talk to me. Because like I said, these are our fellow villagers, these are our friends, these are our neighbors that are experiencing this. And then you had a item at the bottom.
Yes. So, let's see. I finally got a hold of DOT, somebody from DOT.
Yay.
They apologized about the study. They, so they kind of got lost in the shuffle of COVID. They will be sending us a report. Their findings stated that they didn't believe that there needed to be a traffic signal there, but additional signing. And once we receive our report, they're also sent on to the local New York State DOT offices, and they will be coming out, I guess, to put said additional signing for that crosswalk there on West Main. and
Intersection of West and Union.
And what will the report include, like how many cars or vehicles went through and speed?
I would
or, like-
imagine, I have no idea.
Yeah, it would be all the data that was pulled from the strips that they had down, so it should show how many vehicles. And I think it even has a breakdown per hour, et cetera, so you can see, and then your daily totals of how many vehicles went through. I'm not sure if it did the speed, I don't think it's a radar-like system, but it's basically the traffic pattern, figuring out how
Yeah, I
many
think
times people
Ultimately,
access
with the
those.
strips there.
Okay.
And then our last thing is,
Before you go on, Sergeant Danko, sorry, do you know what, I know it says, a signal for the intersection won't be needed, but do you know what additional signage means? I know in the past, we were saying that there was an issue with signage there because tractor trailers would always.
They do.
Yeah, so do we have any idea?
I
No.
don't, I think it was in reference to the crosswalk itself.
Gotcha.
Maybe that there's one ahead, or I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, I had a 5-quick-minute conversation with them. They were very apologetic for losing us in the shuffle. And he said that, mainly I was asking about the signal and what they found. And he said, no on the signal and additional signage that would be set up by the state as soon as they mail out the report. And he said, we'll get a copy as a village, and the local New York State DOT in Washington County will get a copy of it as well.
Yeah, the Hudson Falls office, I
Yeah.
think is our local one.
Gotcha. Cool. Thanks.
And then my last piece is, so with bail reform, we had to put our body cameras on the back burner. I'm a fan of body cameras. I had them when I was working for the sheriff's office. I think they're a great tool. They're a great tool for not only protecting our officers, but also protecting our citizens. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to get them back again. There was a lack of clarification when the bail reform laws came out of how long data had to be stored for. We now actually have a time frame. It's 90 days. So we are currently working on getting that back into our program. We're changing our P&P. We're working with, trying to meet, the governor's standards for the changes and whatnot, and sitting down with the mayor. What we're working on pretty much is crossing off everything that they want. So we're in good shape with that. I have a gentleman that works for us part-time, that works for the Department of Criminal Justice full-time. He's currently working on doing our P&P, and I'm gonna implement the body camera P&P. We have an older one, but I want a newer one, more up-to-date
What
one.
is PMP stand for?
Policies and procedures, my apologies again, sorry. Policies and procedures, and we're working on that. Once I get that implicated, we have to set up our storage system, which I had Lance help me order a 8 terabyte external hard drive. Doing some brief calculations, a terabyte holds about 250 hours of video footage. So talking with some body cam people, they said the village of our size shouldn't really have too much issue with that. So we're hoping that works. We're gonna meet with our other officer that does our tech for us, Steve Griffin, get that set up. Hopefully we'll have that rolling out the door ASAP, because I definitely want it as soon as possible
When does an officer turn the body camera on?
for everything.
Oh, it's on their entire
It
shift?
has to, no, not the entire shift. Anytime that we interact with the public with the new bail reform laws, it's on automatically.
Gotcha.
But
So,
we had to stop when the bail reform laws first passed?
because there was no clarification on the storage, and
Okay.
storage, like the sheriff's office spent $400,000 to give you an idea of, on their body cam and storage system. Obviously, that's like a couple of years of our budget. So we had to wait for clarification, and now we actually have a time limit of what we can keep our video for. Because every interaction has to be recorded, it has to be saved. So if I came up to you and blipped it on for a second, and we were just talking, about a cat that you saw running around in the alleyway, we'd have to keep that for discovery, even if it is nothing, because it could be something. So we'd have to keep it. But now we have a time frame where we can say, okay, we don't need our conversation about a cat running in an alleyway, and we can get rid of it, and, now we can get this rolling, so.
Is
Right.
body camera video foilable?
Yes,
It is.
it is foilable.
It's just another public record, just a different medium for it.
Gotcha.
And how does that work with the time frame? How does FOIA, I have no idea how FOIA works for the police.
With respect to,
Well, if this is it filed? Is it like, how does, this
Oh, the
is a whole new
videos, you
world.
mean?
Yeah,
Well, they would store, so what usually happens is FOIL requests come through the village office.
okay,
So Lance would get it, it would come in, and then we'd look over what they want, and then we would talk with whatever department that FOIL request impacted. And then I'd sit down with Sergeant Danko and say, okay, this FOIL request came in, they're requesting information on this, this, and this. So what we typically do is find the information, either paperwork or now body camera, but then we also run that by the attorneys as well and say, okay, are we doing right by this FOIL request, or is there information that needs to be redacted, like from paperwork, for
Yeah.
instance?
Gotcha.
And then once that's cleared, then we give that person what we have.
yeah, so I guess, I think what you're asking is like if it no longer exists.
Right, if it no
somebody
longer
asks for
exists.
something. If the record no longer exists and that's in accordance with the law, then the record no longer exists.
or how long you have to respond to something like that and how that works with the time frame.
It's 20 days typically, you have 20 days
20
to respond to a FOIL request and provide the information to the person that requested it.
Okay, and we're holding this for 90 days, so that, as long as.
Right, so if after 90 days, we get one 2 years after something
Yeah.
happened, there won't be body cam footage for the incident 2 years.
Unless it
from now.
pertains to a case.
Right, if it
Then
pertains to a case that is actually, that you guys actually
Oh,
gets
that's-
prosecuted, the body cam footage would still exist.
But like daily interactions, like the cat conversation, that's going in 90 days.
Okay.
Yeah, if their body cam image is used in an actual case that the district attorney and prosecutors are gonna be doing, that will be retained.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're splitting the cost with Greenwich, because you got the package deal for both of us, correct? For
Yes,
the cameras, so it works out to be $900 for the village's cost for that, which is well under our procurement policy, so Sergeant Danko just ordered them as opposed to needing us to send out to 3 different bidders and all that process, so.
Yeah, and with,
Yeah.
you know, with the political climate right now, I think it's crucial. So
Mhm.
for
Absolutely.
everybody's benefits, public and officer.
Absolutely.
I just actually just wanted to jump back. Trustee Gary Snyder kind of touched on it with her question about calls. So I think I may have asked this probably in one of my first meetings, but a call is anything that goes from helping a person unlock their front door all the way up to doing one of these 941 pickups.
Yes.
It stretches the entire
Yes.
spectrum of that. Would you say that like a majority of these 394 calls, or even the 55 this month, have they mostly been mental health related?
No. A lot of it is, it's everything. It's.
Yes.
I mean,
Lost dogs.
Yeah, exactly, right.
so pretty much if we have a mental health incident, if it gets to that point, it's, well, let me rephrase that, I guess. The number for the arrests, that, I mean, that's, yes, we're definitely more involved with that and the mental health aspect. There's some things, and I don't want to delve into it, I mean, like, just for protecting people's
Sure.
privacy.
Absolutely.
I talk with people on a daily basis, which I could say is a mental health kind of thing, like a little therapy session with them,
Sure,
you know,
I got you.
but I don't document that, you know.
That's just community policing.
Right, yeah.
Right, absolutely.
So I just want to make sure I answer your question right, but yeah, the stuff that's documented, that's definitely the stuff where we're ordered by somebody to come in. But, you know, there's, like I said, there's some people I chat with every day that it just helps them make it through the day. I'll chat with them, you know, but I don't document that. It's just, so it's just what we do.
Many people just want someone to listen, you know, I've had a few people show up on my porch in
Yeah,
regards to things.
Yeah.
Actually, I've had more people stop on my porch in the last couple months than probably for anything, and I think they just wanna see me, they're like, you're here, you're real. But we talk, you know, you just talk with them, and, you know, some have some issues that they, you know, wanna talk about, and you listen. You
Yeah.
just listen to them and let them voice their concerns, and it's, you know, it's great. And I feel, you know, very humbled and, you know, privileged that there are people in this community who have no problem stopping by and chatting on my porch with me. You know, my door is always open, and I appreciate that, you know, that they're willing to do that. But there is an uptick. I think that people just need more ears to listen to them.
yeah, I mean, I can honestly say that this has been, on the mental health aspect of it, this has been the worst year. I'll sit down and try to pull numbers for you, Steve, and try to give you an idea, but I could just say off the top of my head, yeah, this is abnormal for us. I would say it's abnormal.
It seems, I don't doubt that at all. It seems like there's the mental health things that are categorized there, which you know it is because the doctor's saying it is, but then there's like, somebody's having a really off day and you're the one responding to it, and that's a mental health thing, or, you know, frankly, a lot of what we criminalize, like substance abuse, is also a mental health issue, and you're on the front lines of that. It's helpful to me to help see the shape of that and think together like how we can support you and support the community.
It's rough though because of HIPAA. And, you know,
Yeah,
I'd love to give
fair
you
enough.
more information, but HIPAA kind of blocks us with that. But I could say, to help a little bit, I would say the number 4 that you're seeing on this report is probably more indicative to an adjustment somewhere with the doctor and the patient medication-wise. As for like substance abuse, mental health incidences, it's not that much, I guess, that we come across. If that helps, I don't know, I can't really, I'm kind of bound by certain things, so.
Yeah, I know that's the tricky piece too, is it's hard to sometimes have some open and honest conversations about these because, you know, there is a duty to protect individuals' privacy at the same token. So it does make it a little tricky, but, you know, I thank you for doing your best to answer the questions that as
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I appreciate it.
as
Yeah, thank you
best
very
as you
much.
can, we appreciate that.
And just one last thing, it's sort of, well, obviously it is PD related, but the decision comes to us, and I know I asked about it last month, but again, radar signs. What do we need to do to get the ball rolling on that? We need to
Take the
figure out.
money and order them, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I need just, if you guys
And
give me a
give,
green light,
give the Sergeant Danko the go-ahead to order them, because they're gonna be about, what, 5,000?
no, it
No?
depends on how many you want. They're about a little over
$2 grand
a
each.
sign. Right. And then, but actually, yeah, we can talk about that. It's about $2 grand.
And would he be able to purchase that himself from his equipment budget, or is that something that?
Well, we don't have that
budget.
budgeted in his equipment budget, so he
Oh,
obviously would
okay.
go over budget
Yep.
in that area.
Okay.
But we could see, I can't think off the top of my head how much is in the PD reserves.
Is it like 14,000?
I don't remember where that's at. I mean, once we do our AUD next month, well, here in September too, we'll have an idea of what we have left, and we could say, hey, look, we want to increase his equipment line out of our fund balance for X number of dollars, because we want to get those radars. We can do that.
Would you have any objection to us using the?
No,
reserve funds
that's
for
what I
that?
did with Greenwich. I think they're a great
Awesome.
tool, great tool.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
I like the sounds of that. Great, cool, thanks, guys.
Can I ask one more question as I
Yes.
feel like I'm learning a lot of your lingo and I appreciate that. The relationship between cases and arrests and calls for service. Calls for service can be anything. It can be the lost cat, it can be somebody breaking and entering. Arrests are individuals who were arrested, and the cases could be, each person could have multiple cases, like if you're arrested for breaking and entering and whatever else. Cats and kids and kids and lives here.
The DCJS stuff is stuff that is either in progress or could be a charge that didn't end up being a charge. So when we use this system called SJS, it's designed by the state. We put what could be in there, what we had. And sometimes like you'll go to a harassment complaint and your victim will be like, I don't want to press charges, I just want to document it. So we have a charge, we have a victim, we have a suspect, and we have prosecution that decline. That gets sent to the Department of Criminal Justice for statistics. So they can, like we've talked about before, figure out where to put grant money. If, your domestic violences are high in this area, they try to shift resources to that area to help combat it. So that's what our cases are. So
Okay,
if that answers your question. The calls in general are just everything combined, cases, interactions
Okay.
with people, and
that's super helpful, thank you.
I think there's some great discussion.
Yep.
All right, youth report you'll see in there. Lindsay's got that in there. She's working on the logistics for the after-school program. The registration form is up on our website, and just meeting all the lovely COVID criteria that we have to do now in order to continue that program. So that is at. Of course, it was pretty quiet summer with camp being canceled.
Yeah, I was just looking back at the treasurer's report. It's nice to see a pretty nice positive fund balance in the.
Yeah, and
We don't have any costs, so.
we'll go over that more with the AUD.
Yeah,
So of course, our AUD is gonna show we ended the year in a negative with the AUD because all our funds for the year hadn't been in. And what Les essentially did in the books is we loaned them whatever they were negative, and then they paid it back as the years, the monies have come in for that. So yeah, it is nice to see that positive number. Also this year, we didn't have to, I know before we didn't loan it, but we absorbed that for the youth program the past couple of years. We absorbed whatever they were short because they were short and there was no way they were gonna be able to pay it back. But this year it was so close that we knew the money that was coming in after the closeout date was gonna cover what it was short, to maintain a zero balance for the year. So we did not have to absorb any funds from the youth department, this year. All right, and Assessor Bill is here with us.
I just got those 2 items for executive session.
Just a couple items for executive session, which will be a little unique because we have the cameras rolling and executive session is part of our meeting. So I'll just explain it real briefly. So what's gonna happen is that the feed to our camera, we're gonna shut that off when we have our executive session. which the meeting itself will still be streaming because we have to close our meeting in the open meeting. So what will happen is the feed from our camera will no longer run. It'll be a black screen you'll see on the website, and the viewers will see a black screen for whatever the duration is for our executive session. And then once we're done with executive session, we'll put the feed back up, we'll pop back in, and then we can close our meeting out in the live broadcast. So thank you, Jim, for working out and navigating us to be able to do that.
Well, Amy will be able to be in executive session.
Amy should still be able to, because we're stopping the feed, we're not necessarily stopping her feed to us.
Okay.
Send Jim a text just to clarify that. Of course, we do
That
still
was my question too.
if Amy should not be on. Yes, Amy.
I'm there. No, that was my question also.
The checks or anything weren't included.
As we anticipate more will be forthcoming, so I
I
just wanna have
don't, yeah,
clarity
I
about-
got a handful of checks. I'm not sure if it's the total amount for it or not.
Say all told, it's probably about $350.
So it's actually coming in more than what we need. So what do
Yeah,
we need to give the money back? How does that come into play? I mean, we don't need more.
I mean, that's how that would be handled. That would be a gift a gift to the village that you would either accept or decline.
So with the additional, so if we end up with more money than 223, do we decline those and send them back once we hit 223 or?
I mean, I would, if
Yeah.
you're only going to do it for that particular purpose, then I would recommend that that's,
Because it does say restricted donation.
restricted for the particular use, and if the use only costs whatever
Right.
it costs, then I think you'd have to, refund those funds if you're willing to proceed with this.
And just to update on the information we actually have, so we do have from the Cherries, the copy of the diagnosis from her doctor, that she does have photosensitive epilepsy, which we all have never doubted that she has this condition. Where the problem comes into play is the lack of information on how the LEDs actually relate to this condition. That's kind of information that I was hoping that maybe they would be able to have, a little more discourse for their current physician, that maybe they had suggestions to offer up, but they have not produced any of that. I had even in my emails to Lori Kidd, who's the Epilepsy Foundation Director for New York, I had, asked her, I said, when do you anticipate the Epilepsy Foundation adding LEDs to your list of triggers on your national page? Because even that would be something for us to fall back on, that here the Epilepsy Foundation is acknowledging that LEDs are a trigger. That gives us that medical backing of, okay, there's some more information. She didn't respond to that email or let me know any type of timeline when they thought they would ever be adding that. So it's,
And the National Grid's letter too was
Mhm.
raised the question as well. So that's
Correct.
just what we're trying to answer.
Well, in my experience as a federal employee, any accommodation that would have had to be made would have to be very specific as to what my doctor would have recommended. And I would have to show a diagnosis. I would have to show, the exact cause. And that's just standard, through HR. And I haven't seen that. But the fact that they are wanting to pay for this themselves kind of makes, it kind of makes a moot point. I don't know. It's something
I'm never worried about the cost. 223 is a reasonable, reasonable cost.
well, but it could be, but the thing is the precedent. If have another issue in the village.
Right, and that was my concern as well is,
Right.
Will the next item be for something, a modification or accommodation in another
Exactly.
situation where there's no real backing or paperwork,
Exactly.
but people send us money in to make that accommodation? What do we do? Like, I don't want to set the precedent that if you send money, it's going to happen.
Right.
And then you get down that road is dangerous as well. Yes, sir.
So I just have quick question, maybe an idea that could be floated out there, so it kind of takes it off of our plate. Like, and if anybody has any idea how this actually works, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember my grandmother, when she was alive, was able to pay National Grid to put up their own little street light on their area. So I guess my question is so this kind of takes it off of the village's shoulders and doesn't set the precedence. What if the residents approach National Grid in particular and say, these 5 lights, we have a check to change them to this color. Can you do that for us? That way
Yes,
it's not
good
on
idea.
their shoulders, it's not on our shoulders, and they, you know,
And that initially was the route, and that's why this has taken so many months as well, is that we aren't the owner operator of those lights. And that's where we're putting the burden on National Grid, which they were cooperating with us too. What has happened is that National Grid has the RPI report that finds that their lights are not doing anything. So therefore, that's where, and actually, National Grid right off the get-go could have said, we're doing nothing for you, and walked away from us. And they would be fine to do that because public utilities are not under ADA in general terms. It's not typically done. But they wanted to work with us because they know this is our resident who is asking for the help. So once RPI, or once National Grid got that report, then that's where they said, here, look, our lights aren't doing anything. They've actually, the report proves that our lights are better than they were with HBS. But because this is your resident, we will give you options and you make that decision. So they're basically doing what you're suggesting and holding us, because that puts them in a position of liability as well, of now we've made a modification because someone asked, and now we're going to have to do that in every city that we provide energy to.
gotcha.
So it is, and you mentioned it, you know, a recommendation from her physician would be phenomenal. It doesn't have to be, you know, proof saying, yes, LEDs are doing this. Just saying, I recommend da, da, da. That would be
I really don't think as an employee for the federal government, a recommendation would have been enough. There would have had to have been a diagnosis, and it would have had to be within a certain amount of time. It can't be 10 years old. It has to be.
A diagnosis. I mean, we could have an updated diagnosis, but the diagnosis we have does diagnose her condition. The problem comes into play is
as it relates to LED.
Trigger when all the science is not showing, all the websites. I mean, I poured over anything I could find on the internet. Cara and John have poured over any documentation or any case file or any information that they could find to show, and ultimately there's nothing out there in regards to that. We're not saying that they don't.
Right.
You know, we would never want to say no, you know, LEDs don't trigger this condition because we don't know. And that's just the point of it, is we don't know. And that's why we're hoping that maybe a physician would offer just to give us something to work with. We need to have a little more something, because honestly, at the end of the day, this won't change. You know, I'm actually meeting tomorrow evening with Bill and some residents who are having an issue that they insist is the village's issue. It's not the village's issue, but they are insisting it is, and we're going through zoning, et cetera, which I'll be emailing you about. And that's what I'm worried, is the uptick of these type of things happening, you know.
Exactly. And so as Cara says, this is sort of a policy that we are setting. And so because of that, we have to be careful of the policy that we're setting. I think Sergeant Danko is correct. If the Cherries could work directly with National Grid, then that's another story. But because the Cherries are going through us, this is a policy.
Well, they're not necessarily going through us. In May, the National Grid and the Cherries began working together towards solutions. And basically now that it's National Grid's lights are not doing this, is that, you know, National Grid has no solutions to offer because the proof isn't supporting what the claim is, but they're giving us an option to keep our resident and aid our residents, and they'll do whatever we ask. Ultimately, there's nothing moving forward with National Grid at this point unless we say, look, we want one of your options.
Another thing to take into consideration as well is Greenwich is switching to these lights. Everybody is switching to these lights.
Everyone.
I mean, we might be able to solve the problem for a year or two before they go out, and then we're.
And that's the issue right there. What happens in 3 years? Who does National Grid hand the bill to? The Cherries or to us?
Right.
Well, I don't even think they're getting the lights
To
anymore.
convert back to the LED.
To convert back to
because They don't
LED.
use HPS anymore.
That's a very good point, Steve.
I know, it's.
Because those things don't happen for free. These things don't happen for free.
And they're not gonna give us the same sweet deal that they gave us
No,
this time around.
exactly. Unless we could get it in writing now for those lights, when it goes back to LED, what is that going to cost us?
Yeah, I mean, would we like to send another letter and just put it out there again to, please reiterate what we wrote in our last letter. If there's any supporting evidence you would like to submit, please do so. And we'll hold a special board meeting in the middle of September. I was hoping we could hold a special board meeting in the middle of August based on the information that we got, and we could be able to move forward and find a solution. We just need something to work with, just anything to work with would be greatly appreciated.
From a scientific source, a doctor or a credible source, I think we all want a solution to this.
Absolutely.
Is what you're
Right.
saying that you're trying to get someone with subject matter expertise, like a physician, to draw that line between the condition and the LEDs for you to justify your course of action?
Right.
Is that what
Yeah.
you, all right,
Exactly.
drum capture.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then that gives us the backing for, okay, we're not necessarily setting a precedent. We have valid information that supports us doing this.
Right.
So then when the next issue comes up and they say, oh, you did this for so-and-so, why won't you do it for me? We say, well, please provide us it's the same type of documentation or fact-based evidence, and we can most definitely look at those things, and then we're
I
not.
don't think that the issue is the evidence, there's been no evidence presented that links everything, the relationship with the condition to the lighting, to the, what's being requested. Is that gonna alleviate the situation or?
And you're saying it exposes the village, and if you do it based solely on a few pieces of paper that aren't necessarily connected, but it's basically medical.
But we haven't
Right,
gotten
and
any paper.
basically-
We've gotten a
Right,
lot
well,
of, well, we've got subjective emails and we've had many people.
It's basically a lot of anecdotes.
Anecdotes
Right.
and nothing with actual citations for legitimate ways of finding the information, and that's
Right.
the trickiest part.
We're not questioning that she's having these issues. What
Right.
we're questioning is we need to see a doctor saying it. A doctor would have to evaluate that if it's a difference in medication. I mean, there's so many things that could be causing this. And we don't know that it's LED unless we have a doctor saying that.
Right. Just something to help give us that backing, because honestly, this decision we make tonight will impact the village from here on out.
It will. It's a policy.
There will
Like
be
Carter
liability
said, a
factors
policy.
that will go forward, and it's a very tight spot to be in, and my heart does go out to the family. We do as human beings on this board, we definitely feel for the family. We feel for
Yeah.
for the Cherries and all the people that have emailed us. We feel what they're saying, but on the same token, we are stuck in governmental roles where we have to make decisions based on facts and information that's put before us, and we just don't have enough information before us to make a decision or move forward. And
We have to connect the dots.
Absolutely connect the dots, and we appreciate those that have emailed us. The many that were respectful, I say thank you to you, because you got the point across without going down a road.
Yeah, right.
Let me tell you, the bulk of these emails have been quite nasty.
Yes.
For the last 8 months, quite nasty to all of the board members, myself included in that. And that level of discourse with your government, that needs to stop. There are no reason to use name calling or other hurtful phrases when you're trying to get your point across. In fact, when we receive emails like this, it just makes us not even look at the information in the email and just want to just totally not even look at the email, because
Yeah.
some of the things have been extremely volatile things.
Yeah.
I would never say to someone that I even despise. So I will ask that. I know, many people will be watching this video after tonight. So I kindly ask, please, if you email us, please stick to the subject matter and please refrain from personal attacks.
Yes.
Because we're public servants does not mean you have the right to attack us in those type manner.
I agree.
Public service is not a free ticket to just say what you want to someone, because like I said, we are all humans as well, and we're all trying to do our best up here. And sometimes at the end of the day, what we want to do as a person, we can't do as a government official, and that can be very hard to work in, but we do it because we do care about the community. So should we draft another letter kind of stating a little more specific? I thought our last email was a little specific, but we could do that again. I do know Steve had mentioned an interaction where maybe it was brought that, the Cherries could come and speak with the full board. That's what actually I've always wanted, but we've always invited them to come to meetings. Unfortunately, you can't meet with the full board without it being an open public meeting. It has to be an open public meeting because of the open public meeting requirement. All 5 of us can't meet together to handle village business without it being open to the public. So, I know there's been talk that these lights are not, that these lights are converted to LED. They haven't, they're still fluorescent. But if these fluorescent lights are affecting Mari's condition, we can meet at another location as an open public meeting in another spot that the lights would not be, if we wanted to sit and talk about this in person. So that option is available as well. Just knowing that anytime we would do it would be an open meeting. So.
I agree.
So this was a great conversation, and I'm sorry for checking my phone during it, but
Didn't even notice.
someone sent me a Facebook message saying that all they see is a black screen.
So you're
Oh,
fine.
God, no. Please tell me no.
Can
And
they
that
hear
we've been
us?
in executive session for about 15 or 20 minutes. They
We're
did
not
not
in
hear
it.
any of that.
Oh, my God, I didn't hear any of that.
But
According to,
you're not seeing anything, maybe it's just on their side. I really hope that's the case, because I'm sure Jim would have reached out to you or somebody would
he
have.
did, and he baffled me. Somehow it stopped at 50 minutes and 27
I'm
seconds.
really sorry. We were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt everybody.
We can recap it.
I wonder, does it record on Jim end and just not stream to the public? No, it would be like.
I don't know, it says you're in the show, everyone can see and hear you, so.
We're in the show, but is it open to the public?
On my end, up in the top left, it says ended 50:27.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not live because the little red thing in the corner.
There's no red button.
Again and recap that. Just the decision.
Just
Yeah, we can do that.
But are we even back?
Is there like a?
We're not on yet.
Time for the meeting?
I, honestly, that's Jim's baby.
Are we on?
Decision for governmental
So
meetings.
good of like the first few months what happened.
Yeah.
Well, this is the first time we've had a, no, it's not the first time we've had a mix.
I don't know how to read it.
Done a split.
Oh, Jim said, keep going, he's recording it.
Oh, wonderful, okay.
Excellent.
You can put the recorded version on YouTube.
Exactly,
stream is not working.
excellent, drive on.
Minus our mini meltdowns in between the middle here about the camera.
All
not
will be
rolling.
preserved, he said.
So I'm sorry, do you have anything else to add?
No, I
Just
just
that.
wanted to throw that one
Thank
in. Thank you.
Okay, so it is recorded for posterity.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so,
So we need to decide if we're sending a letter, right?
yeah, I mean, we can reiterate what basically we did a little more to the point. The way did you how did you word that for the meeting minutes? You just worded it a recommendation or substantive?
We're not live. I don't think you can really take any more action. But we can do this like in concept.
Can he make us live again?
Give
Last
you a
time.
resolution to
Right,
submit,
that's what I'm
right? I
saying,
mean,
yeah.
this is kind of your prerogative, and I recommend
Can we do a
summarizing what
resolution,
we've
send
talked
a letter
about.
last time?
No.
And
No.
And include in that, I would suggest include in there that invitation for a meeting. You know,
Yes.
for a small meeting or a larger meeting, with the understanding a larger meeting will be public.
Okay.
So
So can
Wait, so we
we,
can't
with
keep
that in
going.
mind, guys, so I actually talked to Mari today. I was walking in the street and I saw her at her house. She said that she will reach out to me with some dates and some times.
Very good.
By the sounds of it, it's going to have to be during the day. I don't know how many of us could come to a meeting at 11 o'clock in the morning, because that's what the time it was, and that's when she feels most safe, when we don't have to use lights. Do we have to meet in a place where we can shut all the lights off? I think there's some logistics we're going to have to work with so we can meet with Mari, but I think it's super important. that we
I
sit
can
down
make
with her.
myself available in the middle of the day, and
Perfect.
I'd be happy to
Okay.
do it outside if that's more comfortable to her. I think we all want
You've
Yeah,
got
a
flexibility.
resolution to this.
I can do it live after this a week from Saturday.
yes.
Yeah, it would not help things if you.
Okay, so that's our team corner. Okay.
Okay. So we'll move forward. No action is being taken tonight. We're gonna work on getting some more information and working with the resident as well. So since we're not streaming live, does that mean we can't do any more resolutions?
Well, I think I guess that we can just go into executive.
We don't have anything more. We just have the clerk's
Right, we're
report.
not taking action on it.
We're not taking action for anything in
For
there
your
as
sakes, I
well.
hope you can still motion an adjournment.
Yeah.
It's going to be open for a month.
All right, Lance, you were up.
All
Oh, the
right.
library, I'm sorry, I skipped over. Did Christina provide a library report?
No, they haven't gotten the board minutes yet. She normally bases her report on the library board.
Right, and they haven't, okay.
All right, from the clerk's side, real quick, as far as vital records, $220 brought in, 22 certificates. As far as taxes, you can correct the typo in there, which I'll make sure is corrected in the minutes. That amount collected is as of this afternoon at 3 o'clock, which puts us at 89.4% taxes collected. As far as the rescheduled elections, bottom line, and you already kind of hit it with Amy's question. The bottom line is that anyone who did an absentee ballot prior to the rescheduling of the election, your ballots are locked up in a safe here and will be counted for the 15th September election. Anybody who wants to vote absentee, it's almost the equivalent of early voting. Anyone who wants to come down to the office, fill out an absentee application, we are accepting those at present. So anyone can come down and vote down at the office during regular business hours, which are every weekday from 8 to noon, except Wednesdays 2 to 6. In addition, I am also accepting by mail requests for absentee ballots. And if I am mailing that to you, I need to get your request here at the office by the 8th of September. As far as anyone who just wants to give me an absentee request and vote right here, you can basically do it up until the 14th of September, the day before the election. And last item I have is Justice Court collections, and you see that in your packet as far as what Justice Lucy has brought in. Pending your questions, that completes my report, ma'am.
The poll workers will count the votes the night of the election, correct? Is that correct?
Absolutely, that is a fact.
So what if someone did an absentee ballot back in, when we were supposed to vote on this, back in March? What if
March 18th.
they did an absentee ballot back then, but they accidentally come in on election day and vote in person? Are they?
Any person who votes, anytime they do the absentees, they go through them. There's a place on the envelope where you see who it's from.
Yep.
They do it up against the voter rolls. If they see that someone has voted already, they're not counting the second vote. It's getting tossed out.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions?
Wait, how would they know what to toss out?
They toss out the absentee ballot. If you come and vote in
Okay, so
person.
that would be the first one though, not the second one.
They don't count the absentees until they're done with the people who walk
Okay.
through. So they have a mark in their ledger showing, oh,
Yeah,
You know.
okay, that makes sense.
So-and-so forgot, who showed up and voted, we take what they did at the polls and tell us what they did.
Exactly.
But so it would actually be their the second thing they actually did.
And this year, we also have Linda Record as our supervisory election inspector, and she's done more of these than I can count. So we've got some expertise here. And the other election inspectors we've been using for years.
Great.
So there's going to be a lot of experience in this room to make sure everything goes the way it needs to go.
And there was an issue last time with the voter rolls that came, they cut out White Creek, which I know wasn't our fault, that was the
That was up
county.
that was up at county. I'm
And-
tied in with county. We'll make sure we have everything we need.
I'm
As a matter of
sure
fact,
so.
we were coordinating this back in March. 2 of our election inspectors went up to county to make sure that everything was squared away.
Thank you very much.
That's why I like working with Linda.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I do have a question. I forgot to ask you when it was your section. So we have our public parks and we have our memorial park where the library is. It's a park that's open to the public. But we do have a form that the village uses for when people want to have a formalized gathering or event, either at Dern or Memorial Park. If they want a formalized gathering, they have to fill out our park approval thing because they're having an event, which we require on it that they provide liability insurance. Well, we've been asked by groups to use this park because it is the public's park, but they have no liability insurance. How do we rectify that balance of allowing people to practice their First Amendment rights, which is gathering in public places,
Okay,
against our application that says we require insurance?
that's what the policy is, that all, that insurance is
Right.
required.
But if it's low, so like for instance, when people want to use Durham Park to have a family picnic,
Mhm.
they have their family picnic and don't fill out a form to us because they don't have insurance, right? They don't have, I think there's someone that wants to rent do Durham Park for a private birthday party. If you want a private party, you gotta submit a thing to us. But for that private party, they're not gonna have insurance. But yet it's a public park, they're supposed to have access to it. So how do we work with that?
I need to check, I don't know.
Yeah.
So what's the obligations for individual versus
Organized
organizational?
group, maybe.
for
Maybe
use of
there's a
public
I mean, we
property.
know, like, so for instance, Lions Club or any of those that have organized stuff there, they provide liability insurance because they're a club and they have it. But if we're talking about individuals who are having and holding a group get together to exercise their First Amendment rights, what do we do with that?
Okay, I don't know the answer.
Okay, and we have people, or like the people who are gonna use Durham Park for a private celebration of life picnic. They obviously do not have insurance, yet they want to have it reserved for them for their, and it is a public park, they should have the right to do that. Just trying to muck out how that works, and unless, Lance can scan you a copy of our actual park forms.
Okay.
Because we do have a request in to utilize the park on the 12th.
Okay.
By an organized group that wants to exercise their First Amendment right. They want to gather at Memorial Park, have a few words being said, and then they're gonna walk down Main Street to the lights. They're not walking down Main Street in the road, otherwise they'd have to have insurance to do that, but you can walk down the sidewalks, you don't need insurance to do that. So I don't know what to say to them. And Lance has got their application, which is
Okay.
waiting. I mean, he
I'll
approves.
do it.
We have a loose, pretty loose policy with who approves the application. Often if it's big events, we do it as a board. But if it's stuff that comes in people want to use these places mid-month and we're not gonna get together to approve it.
Yeah.
So Lance usually just approves those minor ones. But I just want to know what to give them because it'll be after tonight that I'll be able to
Okay.
give clarification
All
to
right.
these groups. Yeah. We don't want to walk that line of infringing on people's rights to gather, but yet at the same token, if you're having a formalized event, what's your duty when it comes to insurance? Like, how do you not infringe, but yet tell them we want liability? That's a tricky one.
Okay, let me check.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate that. Forgot when we went to that section. And then, so I guess if we're all ready with regular, we can do a motion to go into executive session and then do what we're supposed to cut our feed.
Right? Okay, so do we have a motion to go to an executive session? I'll make the motion.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay, roll call vote. Steve?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay. Amy?
Aye.
Okay, and the mayor.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed.